Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to do, I think we have to do now once more a complete mid to long term Elliott Waves analysis on VeChain. And we are going to answer a very important question. And it says, has the recent dump in VeChain, which ended we basically took all the lows in these areas, actually changed a whole lot? And should we now be flipping bearish? A spoiler alert, I think the answer is no. And sure, the recent dump did change some structures, but I'm going to try at least to explain why it actually changed the structure in not necessarily a bad way. So, are you ready? Let's dive in and see what is going on. And first things first, I think we have to talk about what is going on in terms of mid to long term structures, because prior to this massive liquidation event, the idea in VeChain was that we are having in this bull run back in 2020, 2021, an ABC on the upside and not a 5 wave. And right away, you are seeing that VeChain's structure is a little bit different than a lot of other altcoins, because in most alts, back in this bull run in 2021, we actually formed an impulse, but in VeChain, I think the story is different. Odds are this is just an ABC up, followed by that, we were saying, look, this can be an ABC zigzag down to about the lowest low, and then we are going to have another move on the upside by the end of this cycle in order to take the highs about, let's say, 27 cents, and that move is going to be in form of maybe an A, B, and we were saying, well, okay, by the end of this cycle, maybe in the next couple of months, in about, I don't know, maybe 6 months to about a year, we are going to have another move up into our C leg in order to maybe take the highs or at least get quite close to them. Now, as you can see, if I just hide everything in this phase, we took all the lows, and now we really cannot argue that we are having in this area an A, B, C. And that's why I think we should actually consider many different structures in here, but most of them are actually still indicating, you know what, in VeChain we are having a correction down from the highs. And even if you want to say, for instance, maybe it's best to go on a less busy chart, maybe from Binance, that we are having in this region, excuse me, like from the highs a 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, something like this. Well, okay, here's a question for you. What happens after a 5 wave down? I think you know it. We are going to have, even according to the worst case scenario, a bit of a bounce back, but this is going to be just a retrace in order to maybe get to about these areas around 10 to 12 cents, and then we can have another move on the downside. So one way or the other, I don't really see a whole lot of valid scenarios indicating that from here the only way is down. We are going to get like a massive continuation of our downtrend in order to continuously set lower lows. I think that is a little bit unrealistic, and I'm actually willing to say most probably the low in this cycle in VeChain is already up. Why? Because you see, the recent event that we got was the biggest liquidation event in the whole crypto history. And events like this usually do mark either the final low or maybe the cycle low. So in VeChain, I'm going to tell you, you know what, we have probably hit our final bottom in here. But having said that, this doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know, maybe tomorrow we are going to get a massive bounce and start the next phase of the bull run. I think recovery phase is going to take a bit of time, but generally, I am actually a big fan of having some sort of a V-shaped recovery, meaning I don't really see any scenario suggesting we are going to have like a deep move down in order to get to here about 1.2 cents area. I'm going to tell you in a bit why, and then we get our bounce. Now, we can have some moves on the downside, like, do not get me wrong, we can do something like this, but then I just expect to continuously go and set higher highs and higher lows, basically have a beautiful V-shaped recovery phase. And you have seen V-shaped recoveries in a stock market and also in crypto market itself many times. Usually the recovering phase is going to take a bit longer than the dumping phase. So this, my friends, is going to be my base case. Now let's talk about the overall structures and see what is going on in this area. And now I am going to say, you know what, in VeChain, we probably did have a correction up in here in form of an A. Probably our B leg is going to be in here and another 5 wave on the upside into wave C. And this can be a move on the downside, probably in form of an ABC zigzag. And if I just go around here, there we go. You see, in an ABC zigzag, sub waves are going to be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down into a correction for wave B. Let's say in this case, no, actually, let's not consider an ABC. Let's consider an A, B, C, D, E. Basically, some chopping around in form of a triangle into wave B, followed by another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down into C. Now let's go on the live chart, and maybe it's best to go on H4 time frame and count some waves and tell you why do I think we have probably hit our final low. Okay, so let's just delete some waves in here so you can see the candles a bit better. So there we go, there we go. So here's the situation. I do think that off of the highs to about, most likely I'm gonna say this point, we are having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down. Now if you don't want to consider a 5 wave to about here and you want to say maybe we have completed the sub waves for an impulse to about this point, I guess that is also fair enough. You can say technically this is wave 3, this is 4, this is another move down into wave 5. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. And now, given the recent crash, I'm going to say in VeChain, all along we were having the sub waves for, excuse me, I just took the wrong object, there we go, and A, B, C, D, E to about this point and not this time. Why? Because if I just go on H1 time frame, okay, so here's a question for you. If you want to say that to about this high is the end of our triangle in VeChain, then okay, you're assuming that this is going to be right in here, the end of your B leg for an ABC zigzag. In that case, how exactly are you able to find from the highs to about the lows a 5 wave? Are you going to say that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down? Because trust me, I have checked those already. This cannot be a 5 wave on the downside. So I think it does make logical sense to argue this point right in here was the end of our E leg. And if I just go on maybe 30-minute chart, zoom in a little bit more, excuse me, these shadows definitely hurt the chart big time. Now we have to play with the scales a little bit to see the candles a bit better. Okay, so I think from the highs, this is one correction for wave 2, followed by probably an impulse down to about this point into wave 3, correction for 4, another move on the downside into our wave 5, and on a higher degree, guess what? I'm gonna say, you know what? We probably have completed the sub waves for, excuse me, let's just say this one. Okay, an A, B, C in form of a zigzag, and on a higher degree, let's just delete all the waves in here. There we go. I think overall, from the highest high in VeChain, we are having the sub waves for a W, X, Y in form of a double zigzag again, meaning, yeah, we have probably hit our final low in VeChain. Do we have some more reasons to be optimistic? I think so. Let's go on maybe 15-minute time frame. Now, I want to be very clear. In my own time, I rarely go on such lower time frames, okay? This is for the sake of educational purposes, so, you know, I'm thinking it's fine. You see, in terms of Elliott waves, if you want to argue that we're going to have our final low around this region, maybe this is like a very important support, then okay. Off of the low slow, then you have to be able to find a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave. This specific example is called an impulse. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, I think you know it. We have to have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5, and for wave 2 and 4, we can have different scenarios. Let's say, sure, an ABC into 4 and maybe a WXY into wave 2. Let's go on the live chart and zoom in more and see what are we able to find from the lows. First things first, I don't really think that we are having this massive candle stick to about, let's say, the 1 cent area. I mean, sure, if you also check out Binance's chart and especially the USDT pair, you are probably able to see, yup, some strong moves on the downside, and even this chart suggests we have actually wicked to all the way down here about 0.9 of a cent. However, I think there was some trickery going on with Binance, and for instance, if you check out maybe the USD pair on Coinbase, you realize that, well, okay, the lowest low was all the way down here only about 1.4 cents. And for those beautiful people who said on Twitter that we have bought the lows around 1.2 cents, I would really love it if you tell us what exchange did you actually use. Binance was completely down during the crashing hour. I only managed to buy VeChain somewhere around the 1.6 cents area. So if you really truly bought the dip, I would really love it if you tell us what exchange did you use. I absolutely like to use that as well. Now, moving on. Considering this chart from Coinbase, what are we having in here? I believe there is a good chance that this is a 1, 2, probably wave 3 to about here, correction for 4, another move on the upside into wave 5. Also, this can be maybe an A, B, C structure down, followed by another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up in form of a wedge and ending diagonal. And I think from here we can all agree this is another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. So what do you have on a higher degree? First things first, definitely not overlapping of the waves between this move down and also this move, which is a great sign. And second, I think these are the sub waves for a complete impulse off of the lowest low, meaning what? Yup, in VeChain we are having a great sign indicating most likely the bottom is set. Now, having said that, again, I want to emphasize on this point more. This doesn't really mean that from here we are going to go straight up. We can do that, no problem, but I don't really mind if I see another move down in VeChain. And for example, right now I'm thinking about the possibility of having an ABC zigzag, and from the highs this can a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down, followed by a corrective movement up. Probably, yes, I think I'm able to find sub waves for an ABC, and this can be 1, 2, 3, 4, and what's next? Probably another move down into wave 5. And if we are really lucky and we're gonna get to hear about, let's say, the 1.6 cents area, I'll be honest, it's not really my primary case, but if we do actually end up going down to about these regions, I think I should probably once more buy the dip in VeChain, because I do believe most likely these are the sub waves for an ABC zigzag. And let's just delete some waves in here. Okay, and on a higher degree, I think this might be a great bullish setup, suggesting this is 1, this is 2, and what's next? Great move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. And this whole structure is a very important reason for why I think in a lot of altcoins, actually for that matter, we are going to have some sort of a V-shaped recovery. And for example, if you just close this chart and come back, I don't know, let's say about 2 weeks from now, I think the prices are probably going to be a bit higher even than the crashing point. And in case of VeChain, it's going to be about, let's say, 2.1 cents. I think the price in about 10 to 15 days is going to be most likely higher than this point. And I'm really hoping that we are going to have something like this, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because at that point, I'm going to be bullish with like much more confidence. And also, if in the next couple of weeks, we manage to get this move up and take the previous major pivot high right in here about 2.4 cents, I think that can be another great sign indicating, yeah, you know what, in VeChain, probably this is the beginning of another great uptrend, which hopefully is going to continue by the end of this cycle. And let me be very clear, I actually forgot to tell you this at the beginning of the video. If you want to go according to this chart or the one that we are having in Binance, suggesting the lows are like all the way down here about 1 cent, and you want to say, well, okay, when you go on daily time frame, we are having some massive shadows, and since we got our bounce back way too fast, and as a result of it, we did create some gaps all the way down here. And to be fair, this is actually my argument when we are having moves like this. Well, okay, may I suggest, don't really wait for the price to go down and reach to about these levels, because I don't really think we are going to do that, since in my view, this crash right in here didn't actually happen naturally. So the normal rules. I do not believe that apply to the current structure that we are having in VeChain and in a lot of other altcoins. I do believe we are going to get in the short term, let's say in the next 48 to 72 hours, maybe another move down, but it's not going to be that big. And after having a small move down, I do think we are actually going to bounce really, really hard. So as you can see, overall in VeChain, I would like to still be optimistic, and I'll be honest, I'm actually glad that we got this move on the downside for two very important reasons. Number one, this isn't actually going to last, and I do expect, again, in the next 10 to 15 days, VeChain to completely recover from all this shenanigan. And reason number two, now I actually have a clean whiteboard to argue, you know what, we are going to get a rather rapid rise in order to reach to about these highs, at least for the first target, about 15 cents area. And if we are really lucky, we can even take the all-time high. Are we going to do that? Okay, at the moment, you know what, fair enough, that can be off for the base. But let's not even talk about those numbers. Let's just say in VeChain, we are going to get a good move up in order to take this important high, which I think is like a very, very, very likely target. Okay, even if you want to go to about these areas, you are talking about a 400% move on the upside. And I don't know about you guys, in my books, this is a fantastic trade, and that is why I am so bullish on VeChain, and I do like this chart quite a lot, even with the recent move on the downside. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in VeChain. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.